What's up, U.S. history people? We have video number 4, the executive and judicial branches on the docket for you today in the Constitution Unit. This is Mr. Norris.
And Mr. Lawrence.
And let's get going. And we're going to talk about the president and the requirements and terms of service of that office. Let's talk about the term of office. How many years are you serving for, Mr. Lawrence, if you're president?
Well, the president is elected for 4-year terms.
And is there a limit on how many times a person can be elected president?
Well,
or how many terms they can serve?
Through most of our history, the answer was no. But today, in 2014, 15, whatever you decide to watch
23,
this,
maybe?
Yeah. The answer is yes, there is a maximum of 2, and it's been brought about by the 22nd Amendment, which we will talk about the reason for this later on in the course.
And the requirements, we talked about the requirements for the Congress. The president has requirements as well. You have to be older than you do to be a senator or a member of the House. You have to be 35 years old. You have to be a native-born citizen and resident of the U.S. for at least 14 years. So two things here. One, if you're born in the United States, you are automatically a citizen. And this is the only branch that requires the person to be born in the United States. There are no birth requirements for Congress or the judicial branch, but there is for the executive branch.
So what are some main roles of the president? So this new chief executive that is brought about by the new Constitution, something that did not exist in the Articles of Confederation. The first idea is the chief executive. The goal is to enforce laws. So now we have this strong leader within the central government. Also, chief diplomat. So their job is to develop foreign relations, deal with other nations, and act as our major kind of voice to the rest of the world. We'll also see chief legislature. Now it says to make and propose laws. We will find out that it's really not the job of the president to create laws, but the president does have the ability to influence Congress or help to really float ideas or proposals of possible new laws that should be made.
And what can I just jump ahead really quick? What can a president do if he doesn't like a law that Congress passes?
Well, the president, to really make a law into a law, he takes a bill and then he signs it. It becomes a law. The president chooses not to. He can veto it. And now I'm using the word he because historically we've only had male presidents. But who knows? The future could see that change.
Next election is only 2 years away. The president is also the head of state and the chief representative of the United States to other countries. So he is the one that will negotiate with other heads of states on treaties and other things involving foreign affairs. And finally, what most of people associate the president with, and that is commander-in-chief. He is the head of the armed forces. So really, all military decisions could go through the president and often do.
Now, Mr. Norris, is the president, let's say our current president, President Obama, is he a member of the military since he's the commander-in-chief?
No, he is not. And I know this because if you go to Arlington National Cemetery, only people who were in the military can be buried there. And certain presidents cannot be buried there because they were not members of the military.
That's correct. Our founders thought it was important that we have a civilian as the top really commander of the military to really only use the military in times of absolute necessity.
So let's talk about the Supreme Court. We finished up the judicial branch. We'll talk about the term of office. And unlike presidents and members of Congress who have strict years of service, there is no such thing for judges. They serve for life.
Now, whoa. Hold on. If you're a Supreme Court justice, you get to serve for your entire life?
Forever. You could be like 90 on that bench and not even be able to read, and you could still be.
That's a pretty sweet gig.
That is.
Get it.
Yeah, you have that job until one of three things happen. You resign, you die, or you're impeached. And traditionally, Supreme Court justices do not get impeached. So it is up to you, essentially, when you leave. So why is it this way? Why would the framers of the Constitution want justices appointed for life? It's so that they would not be influenced by politics. So they wanted judges to interpret the law as they saw fit, not based off of politics and political parties. Let's talk about some requirements for the Supreme Court. They are appointed by the president and they are approved by the Senate. That's one of the special responsibilities of the Senate, to approve presidential appointments, and in this case, judges. Okay, so we talked about the requirements. Now let's talk about some of the main roles and powers of the Supreme Court. Well, they're the ones who ultimately interpret laws and determine whether these laws are constitutional or not. More on that in just a moment. They also do something called judicial review, which is the power to declare a law unconstitutional. if Congress passes a law that the Supreme Court feels goes too far or goes against the Constitution, maybe violates some human rights, then the Supreme Court can declare that law unconstitutional. And they can also hear cases from lower courts. So let's say that a state court makes a decision that the Supreme Court would like to look at. They can, and they ultimately have the power to overturn those court cases as well if they wish.
So what is the power of judicial review? Probably one of the most important terms or phrases that we learned this year is the power to declare laws or acts of government unconstitutional. So the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is this idea of really where does the Supreme Court have a say, and really where does its power reach until? And it's really the entire United States, including commonwealths, example like Puerto Rico, and even maritime law. So law and events that happen at sea could also fall under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So what are some key ideas of the Supreme Court that you need to be aware of? Well, the first one is the idea of judicial activism. And this is a phrase we'll talk more about, but it's the idea or an attempt to make change through the court. So some people refer to justices as activist justices or judges by making a decision that changes something in society. So we'll look at different examples of these rulings throughout history.
And another, the opposite end of the spectrum is something called judicial restraint. And this is keeping laws the same and resisting change. And we will see throughout American history that the Supreme Court has gone through different time periods where they would be activists and also who would practice judicial restraint. So both of these have happened quite often throughout American history. All right, that is video number 4 of the Constitution for you guys. As always, please send your video question response sheet for video number 4. And in at least 3 sentences, answer the following question. Why is judicial review important? Why might you like the idea of judicial review? If you're stuck on sentences, you can always start off by defining what judicial review is. If you guys have any questions, write them down for us and we will go over them in class. Thank you very much and have a good day.